Hey, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. We had to go all the way to Israel today to get our great guest, and we are going to jump into a topic that, if you don't know these words, then you've been living under a rock. Okay, but we're going to jump in and talk about LinkedIn. Now, before you say, "Oh my gosh, I know everything about LinkedIn," or before you say it's a fad, whatever your reaction is, just kind of sit there for a minute, because I got an awesome guy, Daniel Elfin. How are you today, sir?
Thank you very much, Dave. I'm glad to be part of the Positive Polarity podcast.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to jump into talking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been involved for what, 15 years or so now? Is that about how long it's been around?
It's been a little more than 15. It was launched in late 2003.
Okay, awesome.
So
So we're coming up on 20 years. So, most people listening probably have a profile. Some people probably are on it every day. Some people think that all you have to do is have a profile and you never need to do anything with it. But it's like a kid where you got to feed it, you got to pay attention to it, you got to nurture it. It just doesn't grow by itself. So our goal today here, Daniel, is to kind of talk through maybe some new things that are coming up, some tips that you have for us. So first of all, tell me, how did you get involved in LinkedIn to begin with?
to begin with, Dave, I received an invitation from someone I trusted. It was in early 2004.
Okay.
And back then, if you asked me, I would never imagine it would become the center of my business. It was something interesting I wanted to explore. And 2 to 3 years later, as a salesperson, LinkedIn simply helped me reduce my own sales cycle because I knew the name of the person I need to reach out to.
Okay.
And then I started helping friends. And those friends became entrepreneurs and consultants and asked me to train their sales force. And then I published a book and I said, okay, that I want to specialize. And I specialized in LinkedIn. It has close to 1 billion members. And since you hit record, there were hundreds of people who have joined the platform. Each second, 2 people sign up.
Wow. What are they doing? I mean, I would think it would hit a plateau by now. It's like, but that's not even close to everybody on the planet. So they got a long way to go, I guess, huh?
You're right. The fastest growth is outside of the US, actually.
Gotcha. Okay. So I want to kind of look at this from, the entrepreneur business owner perspective, because I run into people that think it's a necessary evil. I run into people that think, it's really not that, it's not that necessary. So what made you realize that this is so critical for businesses around the world to have a LinkedIn profile?
It's a great question, Dave. I would ask two questions in return.
Okay.
When our audience here runs a Google search for their own name, most of them will find that their LinkedIn profile will be top of the list.
Okay.
Even if they haven't visited it in 6 months or 2 years. Some of these are published authors, some have given TED Talks. Still, LinkedIn will be one of the very top results.
Okay.
So I think you need to manage it and not just leave it and let LinkedIn manage it for you.
Okay.
And because it's become the world's largest business platform, if you are in a B2B environment, if your clients are on LinkedIn, then you need to be there. If your clients are not on LinkedIn and you're happy serving people otherwise, that's absolutely fine. Don't do it halfway.
Gotcha. So you bring up a good point about the how the frequency. So, there's like I said before, there's probably people that are, on it every day listening. On it is like a weird term, because am I cruising through it? Am I adding value? So I want to start there. What's the best, if I'm like for me or an entrepreneur that's listening, is it just good enough to kind of cruise through it once a week, or am I better off posting? Give me some behaviors that you think make sense for the average listener to make sure to optimize their LinkedIn profile.
With pleasure. The first question we'd like to ask is, who's your ideal reader on LinkedIn?
Okay.
Okay, for the positive polarity, it could be entrepreneurs who want to grow their business.
Right. Yep.
Speakers look for additional stages or additional clients. And then the next step would be to ask if I manage to have them visit my own LinkedIn profile, what action would I like those people to perform?
Okay.
And the answer would usually be reach out to me in one week, go to my website, download something, subscribe, something like this. So are we providing them through our profile the information that is likely to convert ideal reader to a prospect, to a client, someone who will have some engagement with? That's the very first level, having a strong profile.
Okay.
The additional layers could relate to your connection strategy. We may go into that, and your content strategy. Even if you don't have a lot of time, you could get a lot from LinkedIn by spending maybe 30 minutes a week or even 30 minutes a month.
Okay.
You get in touch with your network and see who has moved, who has started a new position, whose birthday it is, very basic elements like this. I wouldn't recommend sharing too often and too much on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you compare it with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or most people are not that interested in what we share.
Okay.
They are interested in seeing what we offer. That the top action LinkedIn users perform is visiting other people's profiles.
Okay.
So we're a lot of people are now they're just to consume content, but also to check you out.
So, and I was going to ask that question because the action that I always envision activity as a positive, where you're posting something, you're commenting on other people's posts, you're kind of engaging people there. So is that really, if I'm going to invest that 30 minutes, am I better off just being silent and looking around, or am I better off on, if I see a post that's applicable, jump in and try and start some type of engagement?
That's a great question. I hope people will ask that question of themselves more often.
Sure.
I could give you my answer, but other listeners could have their answers, and that's fine.
Okay.
Initially, what I would do, Dave, is visit the notification area, and that will show you if somebody somebody from your network has done something meaningful. It could be moving to a new position. It could be something else. Then commenting if you found interesting content. If the content resonates with you, it will be great to comment, to share it, to like it.
Okay.
Let's say that if you the more time you have, the more sense it makes to comment and sharing, engage with other people's content. If you don't have time, don't start there. It doesn't have to be the number one activity. It could be number 2, number 3, or number 4.
Okay. So I like the fact that it's maybe 30 hours a week. I mean, there is no, like, oh my gosh, if you're not on it an hour or 2 a day, forget it. So thanks, Daniel, for giving us that free get out of jail card, because, that's, it would be painful if you would have said, if you're not on it an hour a day, don't even bother. Right. So, but in your book and on your website and on your profile, you talk a lot about how that, the customer, this turns into something. There's, your action should be turning into something, pushing somebody somewhere. So if I have a profile, you're saying to treat your profile like a website. So, what does that mean for, do you expect us to have a really robust profile, or what should our what should our profile look like to make sure that we're maximizing LinkedIn?
Cool. So what I meant by thinking of your profile as a website is simply the fact that when you build your profile, it's less interesting for the entrepreneurs who are visiting your profile to see whether you were part as a board member of Community Warehouse in 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
because you're not looking for a full-time job as an employee. What is interesting when they visit your profile, what strikes them initially are the visuals, the
Okay.
photo, the banner, and there it says the Positive Polarity
Okay.
Podcast. And also another very important element is the headline. Your headline by default would say something like owner Positive Polarity or founder XYZ. But instead of that, you change and you updated your own headline into #1 Amazon best-selling author, business/sales coach, BIC EQ certified speaker, host of the Positive Polarity Podcast.
Okay.
And if I can suggest something to our audience here, look at the way you crafted your headline and make your headline more interesting for your reader
Okay.
than just saying I'm XYZ at ABC.
Okay.
And the headline is the most expensive real estate we have on our profiles, because whenever someone's run a search, that's the only meaningful text they see.
Okay.
So treat that headline like you have as a window that could make someone interesting to just discover you. And then when they visit your profile, they will see the featured element that you added. They're likely to visit your website. In some cases, they will see a mutual connection or several mutual connections.
Sure.
And
Okay.
what they think about those people will also influence what they think about you. So when I visit your profile, I see that Sarah St. John is a mutual connection of ours. Sarah runs her podcast for podcast entrepreneurs, and that strengthens the thought leadership I associate with you without even having discovered anything about you.
Gotcha. So if I understand what you just said, Daniel, the photo, the banner, and the headline are really your top 3 things that you need, that are like kind of first on your list for making sure that they're strong. So
Wow.
if you're listening and you don't have a picture and you want to use your LinkedIn profile, that's where I know it's hard to be like, oh my gosh, I don't take a good picture. You come up with all these reasons not to do it. I'm shocked when I look at somebody's, LinkedIn profile and I don't see a picture. I mean, it's kind of weird. So I think to Daniel's point and to everybody listening, that's the first place to start. Make sure you have that. The banner is just kind of a little bit more about what you do. It's, is it more just a visual for somebody that jumps on a profile because they're kind of drawn to that? Is that what that does for people?
Absolutely. 99% of LinkedIn members have not uploaded a banner.
Okay.
So everything we mentioned so far costs nothing, really.
Yeah.
You need to craft something, but you need to craft the headline, you need to add a photo, but it's really, you don't have to pay LinkedIn. You have to think about it strategically. And just getting back to the photo element, you said that when you were seeing someone without a photo, it made you think again, and
Right.
I think it's sort of weird. According to LinkedIn's own statistics, users with profile photos get up to 24 more clicks than users without them.
Wow.
So you can't delay this. That needs to take place today.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's so cool. You hit it on the head where these are free. This isn't like, here in this case, Daniel's trying to say, hey, you guys pay all this money. LinkedIn's even not there yet. Maybe they will be someday. But, right now it's a free thing. And it's kind of like a business card without a phone number or any way to get a hold of you. It just seems like it's incomplete. And so I would really encourage you to get your photo. Daniel said 99% of people aren't using the banner. So, let's jump on that. Now, the headline piece, I want to ask you about that. I mean, is that a situation where you're able, you encourage that to be kind of fresh, where it's renewed on a regular basis, or what are your thoughts on that?
Wow. I think most people struggle with the headline, and because the ideal headline needs to be short.
Okay.
It's not easy to change the headline that much. What I would suggest is that if you have now and if you pivot into something else, okay, if you the name of the podcast changes, if you run a new search, then certainly leverage the headline to make sure that whenever a business partner would ask you what are you up to and what is your goal for 2022 or
Sure.
2023,
Yep.
if you said X, then I think that X needs to be reflected on your headline.
Gotcha. Okay. So I also know that there's, like we have a personal page and then you have a business page, so I see less and less people with a business page. So if I hit the search button and I search a company and I don't see that showing up like it would in Google or wherever else you're searching, are they connected to each other? Is that important to have both? If you can kind of fill us in on what your thoughts are on the company page versus the individual page, that would be awesome.
With pleasure. Short answer is forget about the company page if you're an entrepreneur, and only think about the company page once you have hundreds of employees on your staff.
Oh,
and why is that? That's also one of LinkedIn's particularities, if you like, because the company page on LinkedIn is really static, Dave. You can't do much with that.
okay.
And you'll have a lot more connections and followers on your own profile than you will ever have on your company page. Okay, you have over 8,000 connections, and your page on LinkedIn has hundreds of followers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the case for most of our listeners here. When you are a Fortune 500 company, then the page becomes important. But
Gotcha.
when you have 10 people, when you're an SMB, an entrepreneur, forget about the page. Nurture your own profile, because that's where connections happen. And the action that LinkedIn users perform are not follow a company page, it's connect as an individual.
Okay. That's interesting. So, and I'm sure people listening may have different opinions. Awesome. I always feel like it's hard because I always post from my personal page. And then when I try and post from my company page, I don't get nearly the action because there's not nearly the people following it. So I was just curious how important that is. So I appreciate you sharing that. How do you get your profile to stand out? I mean, if there's 1 point whatever billion that you said people, and if somebody does a search for whatever your business that you're in, how do you, is there a way to get yourself up towards the top, or is there anything that we can do to kind of improve the ability for our profile to stand out?
Okay, so let's maybe we could discuss searches. Searches
Okay.
are pretty important on LinkedIn.
Okay.
There are billions of searches who are run every year. So what we could do is step into the shoes of our ideal client.
Okay.
And ask ourselves, if they were looking for someone like us, what terms would they use?
Okay.
And just make a list of the terms they would use. They may use training or mentorship or leadership or sales or something like that. And then go back to your own profile and ask yourself, out of those 40 terms, have I got them all? Have I got 10? Have I got 20? And chances are you have a lot, probably
Okay.
not all of them. So look at a short list of terms that are important, that are not present anywhere on your profile.
Okay.
And then ask yourself, where's the most logical place? I could use the term sales. You could say I help sales leader achieve XYZ.
Okay.
There are two algorithms involved. One is the LinkedIn algorithm, and the second are the eyes of the reader.
Okay.
And in my opinion, it's best to think of both. Don't think only about the algorithm. Don't try to game the system. Think about the human reader, because if the sentence you're writing doesn't make sense, we've lost them.
Okay.
People would go and say sales, 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 sales. We may find them faster, but when we get to the profile, we see something that's fishy and fake. We're turned away and we bounce and go elsewhere. Don't do that.
So can the words be anywhere on the profile, or are there better spots for those words, or how does that work?
Excellent. The LinkedIn search indexes every word that's on your profile, from the
Okay.
top of the headline through the about section, the experience section, and even the skill section.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry too much about the location of the term itself. Naturally, if it's a central term for you, then usually it would be in the about section.
Okay.
And the essence of your business should be usually in the headline.
Okay.
But let's take an example. You want to be found for a certain keyword, and you don't feel comfortable using that on your headline. Maybe it's
Okay.
a new direction you're looking at, and you don't feel comfortable saying, I've done this for a decade.
Sure.
So you could even add it as a skill. Okay, as long as you can spell it, you can add it as a skill. That's it. You don't need to become an expert on it. And LinkedIn indexes even the skills. So whenever someone runs a search, instead of being page 33, you'll move to page 16. And then if you continue to do it, you'll end up in page number 1.
Wow. So I think that's a really, I want to make sure the listeners grab that, because if you're looking for ways to amp up your profile, I think in this case, what Daniel just said is take 10 or 20 words, whatever, come up with some words that describe you, describe your company, and then make sure that they're in your profile. I mean, that's really good because, like, for me, I'm learning more about talent acquisition and trying to find ways to, retain employees, for instance. So I can tell you right now that I know that that's not anywhere in my profile. And so why would someone, that's like thinking that, looking for something at Walmart that they don't have, it's just not going to happen. So I think that that's really a smart idea. And again, it's free. Now, it might take you a little bit of time, but I'm guessing in 30 minutes, you would be able to create your word list, and then you'd be able to find ways to pepper that into your profile. So that's a really great tip. Thank you. Thanks, Daniel, for sharing that. Do colors, or, I mean, when you think about it, I'm just trying to think of ways for a visual site to stand out. I mean, I've seen some people do like black and white photos. I've seen people, have their dog as their photo or whatever. I'm just curious. And again, I don't think there's a right or wrong to it. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that you have found that really kind of, in the heaviness of all these, sites, how do I make myself really stand out?
Okay, so if we're referring to the profile photo itself, then we need to remember that LinkedIn is considered a professional, traditional, slow and heavy platform. Okay. So I think the best rule of thumb would be to dress like you're dressing up for work.
Okay.
And if that means you have a necktie and a shirt, that's fine. If you are extreme sports instructor, you could do something else. But for most people, showing up just like if you have a profile photo that's taken when you're at work, smiling and with nothing in the background, no vacation. Because I'm usually at the office when I check people out, and people are usually at their office. So if they see that you're surfing, they may think that you're not really interested in hard work.
Okay.
So the photo needs to be conservative.
Keep it simple. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So I want to fast forward a little bit. So let's just say I implemented some of your ideas that we just went through, and now I find somebody. I'm kind of excited. I'm using the search, and I search for whatever my ideal client is. I search for it, and a whole list of people show up, and I click on one and I invite them, and they accept. I'm just curious, what's the next step after that? Because I gotta say, I get a bunch of people that want to connect with me, and I know where it's headed. I know exactly that they're going to, as soon as I accept, they're going to start hitting me with, I have this free this and I have this free that. And, I want you to do this. I mean, it's just really awkward. I don't even know the person and they're already hitting me really hard from a sales perspective. So I'm just curious, Daniel, what's your perspective on, what's the next step after I get somebody, that I think is an ideal client for me? How do I, are there some behaviors that I should do next?
Cool. So with your permission, Dave, I'd like to circle back a bit earlier to your connection to
Sure.
to connect.
Okay, sure.
Right? Because you found someone interesting.
Yes.
Then in some cases it makes sense to connect with them, and in some cases you could do something else.
Okay.
There's a whole life outside of LinkedIn. Again, if it's important for me to have a meaningful conversation with you, then if I perceive you to be an influencer and I don't want to send you an invitation, wait for the accept, and then start throwing free offers at you,
Sure.
I'll try to leverage our mutual connection. And
Okay.
I'll reach out to Sarah and ask her whether she knows you and whether she feels comfortable making the introduction. And if she says yes, then that means our first interaction will not be on LinkedIn at all.
Okay.
And let's think about it from your perspective. When you're receiving invitations and you know that as soon as you hit accept, you're going to get all this sequence.
Right.
There's a way for you to reply to some people who look intriguing or interesting without accepting your invitations. I could share my screen if you like and show it, or whatever works for you.
Yeah, I mean, from a verbal perspective, is there an easy way to?
Yes.
Because most people will be listening, and
Of
I'll
course.
get the advantage of the screen share, but they won't. So I'd love to learn about that, because I think, we have this all or nothing mentality. I find Joe
Right.
Jones and he's a great fit. And so I jump into LinkedIn with it. So yeah, go ahead and, kind of walk us through what that looks like.
With pleasure. So on desktop, we click on My Network, the second from left, and then we'll see all sorts of invitations.
Okay.
And what we could do here is, what all you see is ignore or
Okay.
accept.
Yes.
But what I would like to suggest is a third way. And when you click on See All on the top right,
Okay.
the word message will appear here. And that means you can click on message and enter 2 sentences, really. It would be, thank you very much, John Johns. I thank you for the invitation.
Okay.
I don't remember having worked with you. Could I be of service to you or John Johns Limited?
Sure.
And if John replies and says, Dave, I want to work with you. I got your name from ABC. I listened to the podcast and I want your help retaining our staff.
Sure.
Then by all means have the conversation.
Right.
If they don't reply, or they said, just want to have you as a contact, maybe something will come up, or have an amazing product for you, women's garments.
Sure.
They haven't read your profile and they already want to sell to you.
Right.
You don't have to accept that.
Gotcha. Wow, that's cool. And again, another tip is think outside of LinkedIn. That might be your initial, connection. You found the name and, the information about the person. But that's a great point, that if I find somebody on LinkedIn, I'm always trying to utilize LinkedIn to build that connection. Well, they have a website, there's probably an about section, you might be able to get their email, you might be able to come at it from a different perspective. So I think that's really awesome. So how else, share with us as we start to come in for a landing today, share if you could, do you know of anything coming with LinkedIn that we should be watching for, or anything that's happened in the last few months that we might have missed? Is there any new stuff that LinkedIn's doing that we might not be aware of?
With pleasure. Maybe you probably have seen it, but let me just mention maybe two or three.
Sure.
LinkedIn has launched audio events.
Okay.
Audio events on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has also enabled everyone to have a creator mode, which enables people to follow them. And there are other options like adding a video cover to your profile, a short video that people will see when they visit your profile on desktop or using the app. And this week, the chief product officer for LinkedIn shared a number of inbox changes about the messages and groups changes that are likely to take place. If I could get back to an earlier question, you said if I had only 30 minutes, then maybe sharing is not something I would do.
Sure.
Getting outside of LinkedIn, I want to enforce what you just said. Say you discover that one of your connections has done something interesting. 99% of people would comment on that person's post and saying, great, congrats,
Sure.
way to go. But if you really want to strengthen your own relationship, Dave, with that person, then take the road not taking. Leave LinkedIn, message that person, say, I read that you're starting XYZ. How is it going?
Sure.
And you know, it will take you 30 seconds.
Sure.
But because 243 people wrote congrats, there's no way for you to stand out.
Wow,
and really
that's great.
Going back to the basics is sometimes a lot easier.
So I like the focused approach that really brings, as opposed to, you know, so I get a list of people and there's, let's say 10 people today are having a birthday, you know, so you say happy birthday, hope things are going well or whatever. Hopefully you say something other than what the standard, you know, is. But like, to your point, if there's 20, 30, 40 people that say that, it's really hard. I know for me, you know, on my birthday or anniversary or whatever it is, you get a lot of people saying something to you. You can't really respond back to each one. But in this situation, if you're connected to them and it's their birthday or whatever, they've got a promotion. I mean, what a great idea to jump outside of LinkedIn and then just say, hey, I read that this has happened and tell me more about that. That's really awesome, Daniel. I appreciate you sharing that. I do want to know about, because somebody asked me recently about that video where, and I saw that where your picture on your profile is actually a video. Is that part of the free version, number one? And is that effective way to do something is that a kind of a unique way to stand out that way?
Yes, to both questions. It is free.
Okay.
You need to actually upload the video using LinkedIn's app.
Okay.
But you can add it for free. And remember, Dave, that the video will play muted. So either use transcript or make sure that your video doesn't need to have sound in order for people to understand what you're saying. Okay, that's a LinkedIn decision. The video will play muted initially unless the visitor wants to hear and unmute that.
Okay.
So I added a simple, quick one to my own profile, and I've got added transcripts there. Now there are lots of free services enabling you to do just that. And if we said that less than 1% of people upload banners, then my guess is less than 0.1% have uploaded video covers.
Okay.
And if you want to stand out, that's a great way to do it now. People are still surprised by seeing you come alive, so to speak.
Sure.
They're looking at Dave and then Dave is talking. It still amazes people.
So when you say transcripts, is that just wording at the bottom that says, hi, I'm Dave Melenda, thanks a lot for coming to my site, let me know how I can help, type of thing? How long is that video? How long do they allow that video to be?
It can't be longer than 30 seconds.
Okay.
I would even aim for 20 seconds.
Sure. Okay.
It could even be like retention. If retention is important to you, then scroll down and I have something interesting for you.
Wow, that's so cool. Awesome. Well, these are awesome tips. I mean, that's the cool part about this. And if you're listening, you know, and nothing resonated with you, then I apologize, because I took a bunch of notes and I'm like thinking that words in my profile is really interesting to me. Trying to get that video, I think is, here's the deal, Daniel. There's a ton of entrepreneurs listening right now and they're going, you know, these are all great things. Even though they're free, they take time. So is part of your service kind of helping if I said, hey, Daniel, I really want that video, but I don't want to do it myself? Is that what you guys, is that part of what you offer, or where do you fit in on this LinkedIn subject? How can you help us?
Thank you very much, Dave. My job is helping entrepreneurs leverage LinkedIn better.
Okay.
In some cases, it would be entrepreneurs reaching out and saying, I'm not sure whether my video should look like this or my content should be like that, or what terms should I look for in order to enhance my profile. In other
Gotcha.
cases, it would be more lead generation and beyond profiles.
Okay.
And I welcome anyone listening to just send me a message and say, I was listening to the Positive Polarity podcast and I have a question, and I'll make sure to get back to them as soon as possible.
Awesome. And it's Daniel Alfon, ALFON.com. That's the spot for people to start then, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And we mentioned the importance of the headline. There's a freebie there, a giveaway with a cheat sheet, a simple cheat sheet about improving your own LinkedIn profile headline.
Oh my gosh. All right. So there you go. That's the way to finish this off, is now there's a free tips sheet. So if you don't want to invest the money, or you don't know what to do next, I think that's a great spot, is to go to danielalfon.com and end up getting that tip sheet, because what we just invested in, here is finding ways for you to stand out, finding ways for you to grow your business. Again, outside of LinkedIn was brilliant. There's just so much stuff there. We're just scratching the surface. I mean, we've invested about 40 minutes and, I'm guessing Daniel's got hundreds of other options for us. We haven't even talked about how to dig down into searches. We haven't talked about groups. We haven't talked about, all these other things that LinkedIn provides. So, again, there's this powerful search opportunity. And it just amazes me that we would invest in lists and we would invest in all these expensive marketing pieces, yet we haven't even, utilized the free thing that we have called LinkedIn. So I really appreciate it. And again, I'm going to encourage you, rather than jump onto your next podcast, rather than just hit the end button and go on to something else, jump onto danielalfon.com and get that free cheat sheet. And realistically, there's a book that he has. I mean, there's so much stuff there. And so I think that if you don't do that, it's okay, but you can't get mad at me and you can't get mad at Daniel because your LinkedIn profile is not where it should be. So one last question for you, and I'm going to let you go. What would Daniel Alfon's tip of the week be for us?
Great. What I would suggest is simply this. Ask someone you're not connected to on LinkedIn to show you your own profile, and then ask, if you were looking at this and we never met, what would you think? And we would be sometimes amazed by the answers those people would give us. They would ask questions because we're so invested in it, if you like, that we forgot about the ways other people perceive it. Sure. And they would go like, this is interesting, then that means A, B, and C. And your answer may differ. But if you hear that from 3 people, then you need to rewrite or recraft the way your profile is not about you, really. It should serve your audience.
Sure.
And we're asking someone to show you and to really spell out what they would think can help you improve LinkedIn and make it a lead magnet even stronger than it is.
That's great. Think about go ahead.
Sorry. And on September 13th, please, instead of just shooting Dave happy birthday message, do it outside of LinkedIn, please.
Send cards and presents. Okay, that's my birthday, so feel free to send cards and presents, everybody. But no, what a great, well, thank you for sharing that. What a great idea to really, if you want to stand out. And again, I know that it's like, I don't have time and I don't have the experience, I don't have the expertise. I totally get it. I would look at thinking about your top 5 people, or, just come up with people in your brain. I mean, I have a top 10 most wanted list that is on my prospect list. So I think about how can I, leverage LinkedIn. And then once I look at their profile, jump outside of LinkedIn to Daniel's point. So that is so cool, man. We just scratched the surface. So again, there's so much here. I want to encourage everybody listening to jump onto Daniel's website and get the content, download that. And then if you feel overwhelmed and you see the value, that's where Daniel comes in to be able to help. So I appreciate you digging deep with us today on this. I know I have some work to do on my profile, and if anybody listening says I don't have any work to do on my profile, just email me, and I'm guessing Daniel and I in 10 minutes can find something that you may want to improve on. So I'd be more than happy to help on that. So thank you again, Daniel, for hanging out with us, and look forward to learning more from you on LinkedIn.
Dave, thank you very much. It's been a thrill to be part of the Positive Polarity podcast.
Thank you.